here, and is Counselor Justin gonna? Yes, she's on. Okay. I think I'll just start. Angel will catch up. So I'm going to call to order this work session of the Forest Grove City Council. There's no public comment will be taken, and the council will take no formal action. Tonight's topic is on the police facility, and I'm going to turn it over to our Assistant City Manager, Kim Ezel.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So tonight we'll be talking about the police facility bond. Next slide. We're going to go into a little bit about the purpose, some background about our previous conversations. We'll do a quick recap of the polling results from January. We'll talk a little bit about the May 2026 election results, and then we have some bond structure considerations that we'd like council direction on. Next slide. So tonight's purpose is to provide an update to council on the outcomes of the May 2026 election and reach council consensus on bond structure so that a staff is able to draft ballot language for council's review at the next work session. Next slide. This all lines up with our 2040 vision plan around community growth, outcome to improve public safety, and very specifically the action to build a new police facility. Pretty easy. Next slide. This is the full background of the police facility up till now. 2015 to 2016 was the start of the needs assessment, followed by a property purchase and then detailed analysis. By 2025, the city did go forward with the first bond, which was a very close vote. Since then, there's been value engineering. We've reviewed polling results, applied for an unsuccessful state grant, and now reached council consensus to place the bond on the November 2026 ballot. Just a quick reminder that this is what we're looking at for the ballot timeline. The last day to submit for the ballot title is in August 14th of this year, so we are working towards that timeline pretty aggressively over the next 3 council meetings. Next slide. These are some of the ballot considerations that were brought forward to you in November, or for November. It is a big ballot. It's a general election year. There's a lot of folks who are on the ballot, so we anticipate a larger turnout. It's been 1.5 years since the police facility ballot and 6 months since the city operating levy. We expect a younger electorate with a higher voter turnout, and it would allow for some communications planning over the summer without recosting the police facility. Next slide. We did some polling in January. The summary is that the bond can pass. There is a decent percentage, but it will require a robust campaign, which is what staff has been working on over the last few months. The other strong recommendation was that only one local revenue bond. So do the bond ballot or the levy ballot, but don't combine them into the same election. We normally do the operations levy 3 election cycles prior to expiration in order to give us additional time if we need to have additional ballots. That levy expires in June 30th, 2028, so that normally scheduled levy would be next May 2027. These are some of the results from the poll that we did in January. The short version is that the bond went over very well with women, folks who are over 50, non-affiliated voters, and those who are registered Republicans. The only segment of the population that was statistically significantly negative on the ballot was registered Democrats. Looking at the May 2026 election results, there were 69 total funding measures statewide by local governments. So that is city, county, school district, and special district. Of those, there were 12 bond measures. 3 of those were city bond measures and only 1 passed. There were 52 levy measures. 5 of those were city levy measures and 2 passed. And 5 were general tax measures, but there was no city general tax measures. I did look into it. Those were all for the establishment or dissolution of special districts, or they did things like establish a lodging tax. There was also a statewide gas tax referendum, and that failed 83% no to 17% yes. But I do want to highlight that the gas tax referendum had no organized support. So once that kind of hit the ballot, there was no folks who were really pushing to pass that at that point. And it did have organized opposition. Next slide. In the Portland metro area, it's a little bit of a different story than it was statewide. The Tigard Police Public Works Facility bond did fail 62 to 38. But I do want to note that Tigard had some publicized leadership transitions that impacted that vote. The Lake Oswego Fire Station bond passed by a significant margin. The Newburgh School District operations levy did fail, as did the Clackamas County Sheriff's operations levy. But both the Multnomah County Historical Society levy and the THPRD facility bond, which was a renewal, both passed. Overall, looking at the Portland metro area, 2 out of the 3 bonds passed and 3 of the 6 total funding measures passed. I just want to point out, we did see higher voter turnout than expected. 41% far exceeded the past 3 non-presidential primaries. The Oregonian attribute that to a higher turnout of non-affiliated voters than we usually see during a primary. Usually non-affiliated voters don't even receive a ballot or may not receive a ballot in a May primary election. But because the gas tax referendum was so highly publicized, that's where they theorize larger non-affiliated voter turnout from. Any questions on May election results or polling results before we go into bond structure?
Any questions or comments? I want to make a comment, right? I think it's really important that there's a lot of pressure on voters, on people, right? With inflation, gas prices. I mean, bond, like, and having another tax, a facility or a bond, right, is going to hurt a lot of people, like, and also help a lot of people. I just think I don't want our community. I think everyone on this council understands the pressure placed on our community members, increasing taxes or, property taxes. And so I just want to I just don't want anyone to think we're ignoring what's going on. I mean, you go to the grocery store, like, I'm going to be really honest. I haven't gone to the grocery store for a long time. Thank you, Nate. But I went last night to get coffee because he's out of town. And I was literally, I was shocked. I was like, a bag of coffee is $10 now. So I just don't want our community to think like we know the pressure and the cost of things. And so when we have this discussion about a need for a police station, we understand that. Like, we understand it's a big ask, but we also understand there's like a really big need. And I don't think any of us would be sitting in this position advocating for a police station if we didn't really, really need it. So I just want to put that on public record that we all here understand the pressure. And, I have friends who last time, they apologized to me. They were like, I'm sorry, Mayor. I'm sorry, Melinda. Like, our property taxes have gone up by this much. We just can't afford it. So I just want to put that out there. And I don't know if it's like needed, but I just had to say something. Okay, we can move on.
So as I mentioned earlier, for staff to draft the bond language that meets state requirements, council should reach consensus on the bond structure to give us direction. Key consideration for council this evening is the total term of the bond. And overall, that means a lower term bond. So a bond that is a 20-year term will have a higher yearly annual cost. Sorry, a short-term bond has a higher tax rate, but a lower cost over the life of the bond. And a longer-term bond has a lower tax rate, but a higher cost over the term of the bond. The previous ballot measure in May 2025 had a 20-year bond. And next slide. So you can see that more clearly on this chart. The 20-year term length has the highest levy rate, highest approximate monthly cost of $15, annual cost of $175, but the lowest total cost over the term of the bond. 25-year, right in the middle there, $12 a month, and 30-year, the lowest monthly cost and annual cost, but the longest cost or largest cost over the term of the bond at $11,129 and then $57.9 million. This is assuming an assessed value of $254,000, the same bond amount as the last election and the AA bond rating, and that $254 was the same estimate that was used.
Okay, any questions or discussion on? So we just need to have consensus of what we want to ask for so we can give staff direction for the bond language. Any thoughts? I mean, I always have thoughts, but I'd rather not start with my thoughts. Go ahead.
Mayor, is this just a conversation?
Okay, go ahead, Councilor Gustafson.
No, I was just going to ask, is the conversation surrounding what we want the term lengths to be?
Correct.
Okay.
Councilor Schimmel.
Yeah, just more explanation or how characterizing each of those 3 options in terms of how other cities have approached that, either of those options, or like how would we articulate either of them to the public?
Yeah, so most cities will go with a 20 or 25. 30 is not unheard of. For example, I do know that Tigers bond that they went for recently was a 30-year. But it really comes, one way to think about it sometimes is that if you have a shorter term bond, it's going to fall off of your tax rolls. And so you've paid it off sooner and you're able to put another bond on for another needed. But the 30-year bond, when you're in a time where maybe you want to kind of even out some of those costs, you might want to do that. So that's really why it's a policy decision. But those are different reasons why you might go with either side of that coin.
Counselor Faulkner.
Is the microphone on? I can't hear you guys.
I'm sorry, Counselor Gustafson.
That's
I was
okay.
just saying that, obviously there's a big difference between spending 46 million with the 20-year bond versus 57.9 million over 30 years, because that's, $10+ million more. The attractive thing about that, of course, is for the average, household only spending $15, $11 a month instead of $15 a month. But I'm not sure that the $4 difference a month is going to be the thing that gets this across the line on, on the ballot. So I think when people are voting, they're going to be looking to us to, make, the sound financial, fiscal, responsible decision. And to me, that's the 20-year versus the 30.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Gustafson.
I would agree with Counselor Faulkner. I would go with the 20-year term length.
Okay, thank you. And I see head nods from Council President Valenzuela, Counselor Martinez, Counselor Schimmels, head nodding, and Counselor Marshall, yes. So I think we're going to go, there's consensus. I think it's unanimous to go for the 20-year.
Great. Thank you, Council. So when we bring back draft ballot language, it will include that there is a 20-year term on the bond. Appreciate it.
Okay, is that all you know? No, we have more.
Got one more slide, but I'm going to turn it
Communications.
over to Chief to do the fun one.
The fun one. Thank you. As you can see, that's kind of the communications plan that we have mapped out. High level overview of it. We've been working closely, myself and Lauren, with the city's communication team to develop the informational flyers and the posters and the collateral for that. Starting now in June and July, we'll be at the farmers market doing outreach. Lauren has scheduled a bunch of events throughout the summer, and we're going to be adding more as the summer goes on to get out and have that educational part to the community. The barbecue, the facility tours will kind of be throughout the summer right up until the election. I think from what I've heard is that's one of the most, the best ways to kind of to illustrate why we need a new police station, to show the existing station and some of the limitations there. In August, we'll transition to that neutral messaging. National Night Out's a big event, so we get out for that. And then in September, it's scheduled to have the mailer go out, the community open house, public house, and then just continue with those outreach.
Thank you. I have a couple comments and some questions. National Night Out for the last 2 years has been like organized where the police department goes to different events that like the Beehive hosts one and then a neighborhood. Are we going to restructure National Night Out so that it's a city organized event to try to draw people to the police station and maybe have even the library? I mean, what can we use as far as city spots to like really get people to come out to National Night Out? It used to be done on the campus of Pacific, and that was a hugely widely attended event, and it's literally right across from the police station. So I'm just giving some constructive criticism that where we are now, we need to shift back away from what we've been doing the last couple of years. And I think it'd be really in our best interest as a city and as a police department to be leading and like helping with this National Night Out instead of waiting for a neighborhood group or assisted living facility to say like, hey, come to our event. Like if we want people, I'm just going to be super blunt. If we want people to show up for us, we got to show up for people. So That's one comment. And then my other question is, as we start planning these events, I think like the comms team is going to be at the farmers market June 17th. Can staff send emails out to counselors, and so then counselors can sign up or attend to help support? And then I don't know. And then I guess, well, yeah. And I do have at least 3 to 4 people right now that are willing to be. I'll talk offline about the pack. Okay. Great. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none. I think that's all you guys needed. Okay, so I'm going to adjourn this work session, and we will reconvene in 8 minutes.
We are.
Okay, hopefully CTV is ready too. Thank you. Okay, I'd like to call to order this work session of the Forest Grove City Council. The topic is on enterprise zones, and no public comment will be taken, and the council will take no formal action. And I'm going to turn it over to Jesse. I was looking at Kim, but I'll go with you.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the council, I'm joined tonight by Kim Ezell, our Assistant City Manager. I'll be going through the first portion of the presentation, and then Kim will be joining in at the second part of the presentation. So with that, we'll do a little bit of recap. Mariah, if you would, next slide, please. Next slide. So the purpose of tonight's work session is to consider the Forest Grove Cornelius Enterprise Zone Economic Development Center program. The program expires June 30th, 2026. Council had a work session on May 26th and requested staff bring back some policy options regarding the enterprise zone. Next slide. So the areas that are highlighted and or bolded are just kind of words that are somehow have a nexus to the enterprise zone. So if you look at the goal statement for the economy, you see a diverse economy, you see high-paying jobs. If you look at the outcome, it's balanced, it's diversified, it's industrial, high-paying jobs again. Next slide. If you look at some of the action items, you'll see both commercial, industrial, you'll see small business, workforce development, you'll see just that kind of undergirding of attracting business, and then again, supporting and retaining small and local businesses. So next slide. So what we did is we kind of just did a nexus to the enterprise zone. So for a balanced and diversified economy, and looking at that, that also includes the city's kind of economic tax base. You're really looking at industrial growth. That's what the enterprise zone focuses on. There is some commercial growth, but it's limited to hotels and motels. No other commercial businesses are applicable. High-paying jobs, that really has to do with the wage requirements under the enterprise zone, and we'll get into that in a little bit. With regard to commercial and industrial businesses, the enterprise zone is really focused on industrial growth. Local and small businesses, the thing to kind of keep in mind about that is the number of jobs and the minimum investment criteria. Attracting business, that's really about the program kind of overall. And then in terms of workforce development, the community service fee is applicable to workforce development in the sense that the first 3 years are limited to economic development, of which workforce development could be a portion of that. Next slide. So I'm going to pass it over to Kim.
All right. Oh, good. Mic is on. First 3 slides are going to be a review of some of the material we went over last time about what is an enterprise zone, and then we'll get into policy questions. So as a refresher, Enterprise Zone is a state-sponsored economic development program that gives businesses a property tax exemption for up to 5 years if they meet certain requirements. We'll come back to this again later, but it is specifically only a property tax exemption. It's not an income, sales, or other tax exemption. The program is designed to attract living wage jobs, encourage new reinvestment, and target specific industries per the state statutes. Again, enterprise zones do not exempt income and payroll taxes. It is limited to industrial and some commercial businesses. Commercial businesses are specifically motel, hotel. And then industrial uses are pretty broad, but include manufacturing, warehousing, distribution, food processing, and technology, except for data centers as of last Friday. There is now a moratorium on data centers for a year until the state legislature revisits the enterprise zone program, presumably in the next session. And retail businesses are not eligible. It is administered by local governments, but it must comply with state requirements. And so that's a lot of the research we've been doing is what are the state requirements and then what flexibility does a local jurisdiction have when adopting this program. The state law does sunset the program in June 30, 2032, unless the legislature extends. Next slide. So state has different requirements for both the 3-year program and then a 5-year program. In the 3-year, you must any business who's looking to be authorized under this program must increase full-time permanent employment by at least 1 job or 10%. They may not have any concurrent job losses within Oregon, meaning they cannot lose jobs in another part of the state in order to gain the property tax abatement in this part of the state. They must maintain the employment level for the duration of the exemption, so they cannot hire on the 1 or 10% increase in new employment, but then drop that after the 2nd or 3rd year. And they must enter into a first source hiring agreement with WorkSource Oregon, which does compel the firm to consider Oregon-based qualified applicants for new jobs before hiring from elsewhere. The 5-year abatement, again, must meet all requirements of the 3-year abatement, and then there are a few more requirements. Must receive approval through a written agreement between the firm and the local government that is sponsoring the program. The applicant is required to pay a school support fee in years 4 and 5 that is equal to 15 to 30% of abated taxes, and that percentage is recommended by the school district. And then the average compensation for new hires must be at or above 150% of the county average wage. And that is average compensation, not every new hire must be over that average wage. In the Forest Grove Cornelius Enterprise Zone, we have a few local requirements that differ from the state requirements. First being that you must invest at least $50,000 in building equipment, machinery, or structure. Sorry, this is for the 3-year program. Pay all new employees an average of 150% of the minimum wage. Pay an application fee equal to 0.1% of the investment with a cap of $50,000. I want to just clarify that the application fee that of 0.1% is the cap that is set by the state. The cap of $50,000 is what the local requirement change is. Increase full-time employment by 1 person or 10% and maintain increased employment. For the 5-year program for the city, all of the above, plus we have set a community support fee at 25% of abated taxes in years 4 and 5. The school support fee, again, recommended by the school district is 15%, and then pay all employees an average of 150% of the average Washington County annual wage, as well as continuing to use the first source hiring agreement with WorkSource Oregon. Next slide. So we're going to go back through all of the policy questions that we have previously gone through with council, but I do want to pause here to talk about this area question. So right now, the enterprise zone, as we have developed, covers both Forest Grove as well as Cornelius. Cornelius has not yet had the opportunity to consider the enterprise zone program and is considering going in next year between now and the next legislative session, working with a consultant about how they may approach an enterprise zone program, either on their own or in partnership with Forest Grove. We have the option that council may direct staff to attempt to engage with Cornelius in that effort as one of the options that we could consider this evening. So we have a few options. One is to continue going forward with an enterprise zone based on the policy discussion that we have this evening, but we would likely amend Cornelius from our areas because Cornelius hasn't had an opportunity to review the enterprise zone thoroughly. Second option is that we could pursue making some policy decisions tonight and continue the enterprise zone program, but also engage with Cornelius and perhaps amend our enterprise zone after more discussion. And the third is our enterprise zone does lapse at the end of June 30th, 2026, and we could choose to let it lapse and then reapply, engage with Cornelius, or go forward on our own and then reapply with a new enterprise zone. So I wanted to bring those options up before we get too deep into the weeds on the policy questions.
Let's do it now.
Yeah.
Okay. So before we start unpacking this and discussing it, are there any questions that individual counselors have for staff? Anything like you want to clear up or you want to make sure you understand the context and the decision we're making? And I want to say, this is just the beginning part. We still have other slides, but this is the most.
This could very much determine how we proceed through the rest of the slides.
Yeah. Right. So any questions for staff? discussion? Go ahead, Counselor Faulkner.
Well, I think all of my questions are sort of in the weeds on, and so it would, depending on what we decide on this question, I may just defer all of my questions.
Okay. You want to say anything yet?
Well, my recommendation would let it sunset to give us room to get the policy questions right.
Correct. I agree. I mean, do we have consensus that, because that gives us the most flexibility. We can still engage with Cornelius if we want to. We can see what's going on with the legislature and we can actually build, this is a 10-year, this is not exactly marriage, but pretty darn close. It is a 10-year commitment. You know what I mean? So we really want to make sure we get it right. So is there consensus that we let it sunset, as Councilor Schimmel said, and we continue to work through these policy questions?
I'm not disagreeing with that, but how much does that put on staff to read after we go through it again? Is it going to put a lot more stress towards that portion of having to redo the whole enterprise?
Staff. Well, let staff answer because I was going to say I don't care.
So it's a little bit difficult to discern what we've heard from Business Oregon, and Kim, please correct me if I'm mistaken in any way, and I'm going to distinguish between a reapplication, which would be extending the existing program, from a new application. It's my understanding, according to Business Oregon, that if we let it sunset, number one, you can apply for a new application, so you can do that. Secondly, it is a little bit more of a process in the sense that you have to apply all the new businesses, kind of have some increased validation. So there's a little bit more involved in that process. However, there's also this kind of trade-off that if you approve something now and then you go back to amend it later, that could be potentially just as much work as well, if that makes sense. So the one thing that we have confirmed twice now is that you can apply for a new application. It does require what we've heard is, quote, a little bit more work, but not an arduous amount, if that makes sense. So.
Yeah. And not to belabor the point, but me individually, I wouldn't be comfortable renewing what we have right now. I don't think what we have right now is a product I want to move forward with. So, and then you could even argue on the complete opposite, that maybe we do all this work and we're hey, we don't want to go forward with creating an enterprise zone, and then it would be no work for staff. I'm just playing all the views of it. So, okay, I believe we have consensus to let it sunset. I would like to have consensus. I would like to continue going through these questions, because then if we choose to give staff direction to collaborate with Cornelius, then staff has an idea of some of the things we're wanting and some of the things we're pondering while they go forward.
That'd be very helpful. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, so let's continue on. Okay, one check.
Great. The first policy question really was about area. So an additional question beyond partnering with Cornelius is if there was any areas that are currently within the Forest Grove Enterprise Zone that we would like to remove or others to add. Staff does not recommend any changes currently to the map.
Can we ask questions?
Yeah.
Because I don't think it makes sense to wait until the end.
No, go
if
ahead.
that's
Yeah,
okay.
we're having a discussion. Do it.
So one of my questions that I apologize I couldn't make the last work session. I did watch it. I did see everyone was wearing a jean jacket. I was sorry I wasn't here to wear mine. I was wondering, there are a few times, and here's the very first one that pops up, where staff recommends no change. And, my question that I had watching the last one and even preparing for this work session is, I didn't see anything in the report, and I'm apologies if I just missed it, but I'm not seeing the analysis or explanation for that recommendation. And so I'd appreciate to understand, and if the answer is, I would like to know, one was the Economic Development Commission, were they given a chance to weigh in on this map? Who made that recommendation and why?
Mm-hmm. Good question.
Yep. Very fair. We'd be happy to come back with more analysis related to a lot of these answers for many of the areas where we have either staff recommendations. Thanks.
Yeah, that's really
because I guess, I mean, the reason I'm asking that is because just looking at this thumbnail,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. And I would love to dig into this map because I think, I'm looking at it and I'm seeing, it's running through, maybe some future projects that are many years down the road. And I don't know if it makes sense for those areas to be included in an enterprise zone going forward because they might not be suitable for the type of industrial, use that currently there's. So I've got lots of questions that sort of follow up on that question.
Understand completely. And I think even having an overlay of some of where our industrial and commercial zones are compared to what we're looking at in this map can make a lot of sense. Thank you for the feedback.
Oh, I mean, if that's fine with staff, I think as we unpack this, since we're just doing a lot of work, we should ask questions as we go through. I mean, we're not in a time compressed state at this point. Great.
Next slide. So currently, the application fee by state statute is limited to 1/10 of 1%. Forest Grove has a cap on that application fee of $500,000 or $50,000. Common practice that we found from other jurisdictions around us is that they do not have a cap, and we recommend removing that cap to align with our neighbors. There are other examples below of what that could mean. So $10 million would be $10,000, and $300 million would be $300,000.
Any questions so what's I mean, I agree. Oh wait, Councilor Gustafson, go ahead.
No, I was just going to agree.
Yeah.
No cap.
Yeah, I don't think we should have a cap either.
Next slide.
Oh, real quick, sorry, what is the requirements on what that fee can be spent on?
That fee, there's no limits on what that fee can be spent on. The only limit is on a community service fee in the first 3 years. Must be spent on economic development.
Oh, cool.
Yes. Yeah, it's broad. All right, next slide. This one is minimum investment. State statute minimum is $50,000. There is no state maximum. Right now, our minimum lines up with the state minimum of $50,000, which has not been updated since the program was put into place in 2006. Both Beaverton and Hillsborough have a $1 million minimum. The lowest investment that Forest Grove has seen under the program was a little more than $500,000. We did not have a staff recommendation on this, and as we move forward with the consultant, one of our goals would be to create a staff recommendation or at least narrow down some of these options. And would love to know any feedback that council has on that.
Go ahead, Councilor Schimmel.
Well, like the Councilor Faulkner was saying earlier, is that some analysis on like what would be meaningful and still accessible with respect to the map and what land, what industries we want to attract, what that should be or that range.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I concur and I agree. I definitely think we need to increase the minimum, but also like having the context and the information to know where we hit that sweet spot, because we do have some smaller parcels. And if we, in a further policy question, if we choose to tie like square footage or area, like if we try to do something that's like scaffolded to get, because right now that my understanding from the last work session was these enterprise zones really typically benefit like larger corporations, and that's not exactly how the land and how our community works in Forest Grove. And so if we can build something that does a minimum investment but still allows something smaller to come in and create jobs and like grow and expand, I mean, I think that when you look at the type of business model of Old Trapper, like that's something, that's an example. And
with that being said, with Old Trapper, are we looking at this is in addition to an existing corporation? Like they can do this investment as an investment in their own business to expand the facility.
Yeah, that's like a little bit of a different, if my understanding is right with staffing, correct me, but there's like an opportunity within the enterprise zone that you can do a reinvestment and get an abatement.
So with the reinvestment, would that be considered the $50,000? Or so if somebody just wanted to do a smaller investment, That's the only thing I would run into with the issue is that if it's a $50,000 investment, they're just looking to add like a little bit of square footage, add some machinery kind of thing, which will boost the assessed value of the property. But we're limiting it to a large amount where it might not actually hit that amount. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the only thing that I would run into.
I think it's two different things, but am I mistaken?
There are two different avenues you can take underneath the same program.
Okay.
Either a reinvestment or a new investment. But I will also add that if they're adding like a small plot of machinery for a $50,000 investment, they would still need to add at least one employee or 10% of the employment base. So a very small investment in a larger property likely won't do that, but it may be possible.
Okay, so if I may please, I just want to understand this clearly. So if it's a reinvestment, there is no limit in terms of the amount of reinvestment. Like it could be 50,000.
Yes, both for new investment and reinvestment, the minimum is 50,000.
Oh,
So
okay.
can we
So-
separate that to be as a reinvestment be a smaller amount, new investment be a larger amount?
We believe that is possible. This is still an emerging kind of questions and answers to this program, and that's something that we can look into.
I guess the other thing to maybe also keep in mind when considering this is the tax abatement only applies to the new investment or the reinvestment. So you could have a $10 million business, and if you invest $500,000, you only get the abatement on the $500,000. You do not get the abatement on the $10 million.
All right. Any other questions around minimum investment? If I just can repeat what I've heard, it's about really, and this is something that we talked about at staff, is this idea of balancing the investment for small businesses and large businesses and making sure that there's a lot of opportunity within the enterprise zone.
And I think in all these layers of it, it's like having the assessments that the proof, like the research that, so we know like when we're making, like we can tell our constituents, we can tell the community, like we did this because this is what the data is showing, right? Like we want to be data supported.
Yeah.
Right. I don't want to take, that's what I'm on both sides of. Okay.
All right. Next slide. Similar conversation about the number of jobs instead of minimum investment. Right now, the state minimum is 1 employee or 10% of current total employees. There is a fine point here where it's also 10% of total employees who are employed by the corporation or by the business within 30 miles of the enterprise zone. So if they have any employment within 30 miles, then they are required to increase their total employment by 10% for the enterprise zone property tax abatement.
Do all of those employees within 30 miles of the property qualify for their job requirement?
No, they must create the jobs within the enterprise zone, but they have to create a percentage that includes all employment within 30 miles of the enterprise zone.
So if I could maybe give an example, if you have an office in Portland and you have 10 employees in that office, so let's just say you have 30 employees in that office, the minimum requirement of the 10% would be 3 that you would have to hire in the enterprise zone. Portland's 26 miles from Forest Grove. So that would.
Yep.
Got
it. So state minimum, sorry.
Go ahead, Councilor Schimmel.
Yeah, as far as jobs, I just want to confirm in terms of context that they're jobs hired by the owner or the company versus ancillary jobs.
Yes, as we understand it is, it is not contracted positions. So staff recommendation was to increase the requirement. 1 and 10% is rather low, especially for a new investment. And what we've heard from council has been that this to embrace this program as a way to both increase wages and increase jobs within Forest Grove industrial areas. Some other options to consider, of course, staying the same or creating perhaps a job density requirement. So the average job or industrial job to square footage we found is about 1 job per 1,000 square feet. So if we made a job density requirement of 1 new job per 1,000 square feet of investment total area, then that would be average for industrial job growth.
Yeah, I think I'm in favor of tying, because if you go back to our 2040 plan, I think that was an action item or an outcome we wanted living wage jobs. Like we wanted, and you know, this is supposed to help industrial development, which the whole city needs, right? Like that's how we continue to be able to give good full service amenities and livability, right? Is we really need to fix that. Like we need to attract more industrial development, but we also want to make sure the development, and you know, I understand like you can create revenue without having it tied to jobs. But what we heard during that 2040 planning and what's in our strategic plan is to bring jobs. And I do fully support that as well, because, you know, as it's in my other jobs, and like we all know, like having jobs where you live and having young people know, like, hey, I can do this job, and or I can go to, like, we would have university and we'd have living wage jobs. I think it's really important. You know, when I was like chatting with Jesse about this after last work session, I just also want to like make sure we have some options, and I would like it again to be grounded with data. But you know, I didn't want to just say like, hey, we should have a minimum of 20 employees or 25, like, and I'm just throwing out a number, because what about those like 2-acre, those like smaller plots of industrial land, right? And I want to make sure that so anyways, I don't know if it's an option thing. This is definitely, I would like to see it. I would like the minimum to increase by a lot. But I don't know exactly what is the best avenue.
Thank you, Mayor.
I mean, I agree. And I think that, you know, like you said before, I think, you know, all of these recommendations or any policy change that we, you know, eventually decide on, I think that they all need to be supported by data. And I definitely think that, you know, we should increase it, but I don't know if either of these options here, you know, I don't think stay the same is appropriate,
right?
But I don't know why either of these.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. And there seems to be a similar dynamic between this, the map and the minimum investment in terms of making it meaningful but accessible.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it all seems to intersect with the size of the lot, what industrial opportunities there are, what you can attract for that map, and what's an appropriate, you know, job level for what you could do there.
Can I say one more thing, like in this discussion? Hopefully it's still on topic, but I think also as we're figuring these things out and doing this data, like we also need to be like, what are we hearing from other, like from businesses or industry, and like, and also how are we going to market? Like if we're going to build this program to attract certain types of industry, like we should be building that marketing and that recruitment package as we're building this out, so our economic development coordinator can be selling it and like explaining it. You know, like let's get all the tools done at the same time and make sure that it's in alignment.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying about, really aligning what our economic opportunity analysis has told us, what our economic development strategic plan is going to tell us with this analysis of this program, so that they're all aiming towards the same goals. Absolutely.
Right.
Great. Next slide. Similar to previous, state minimum is minimum wage for years 1 through 3, and then 150% of county average annual wage for years 4 through 5. Forest Grove's requirements are a little bit greater. We require 150% of minimum wage, 150% instead of 100% of minimum wage for years 1 through 3. Both Hillsborough and Beaverton do have lower numbers, and both tied exclusively to minimum wage. Based on the fact that these are higher than some of our neighboring cities, we recommended no current requirement, but would like to include that in the analysis. Okay, next slide. Community support fee, the statutory maximum is 25%. We don't have the fee in years 1 through 3, but we do have that fully maxed out 25% in years 4 through 5. Beaverton does not have the fee in years 1 through 3 and has a slightly lower fee of 20% in years 4 and 5. Hillsborough has done some math with their fee that ties it to more jobs as a lower fee, lower jobs as a higher fee. The calculation is based on assessed value, though. And so it can disincentivize property investment in favor of jobs, which is a trade-off that we could explore as well. Funds in years 1 through 3, as we've commented previously, must be spent on economic development, but years 4 and 5 can go into the general fund.
We don't have to do a 5-year enterprise.
We don't, and that is
I'm like, is that
the
coming
next
up?
slide.
Okay, I'm like, probably,
All right. There's no comment.
I had a question about
Yes.
the current community support fee. What do we spend that money on if we do have any of that money that came in at some point? What did we spend it on previously? How does that get programmed? Is there council input? Does that come to,
So for right now, I think there's only been one instance where we received, right now it just goes into the general fund because it's in years 4 and 5 for the enterprise zone. Most of the applications that Forest Grove has received in the past were for 3 years. And so we didn't receive a community support fee in the first 3 years.
But that will be a discussion for council in when we are coming up on receiving years 4 and 5 at a biennium budgeting conversation about where we would like to see those funds go, knowing that they are one-time funds. Next slide. This is the question about duration. State statute minimum is 3 years, max is 5. Both Hillsborough and Beaverton have a 5-year, though Clackamas County cities are limited to 3. We can have different requirements for years 4 and 5 than in years 1 through 3. I think it's been kind of clearly laid out throughout the presentation. I will also point out that Clackamas County, while it has a limited duration of 3 years to its enterprise zone, does have a strategic investment program that goes for a much longer duration. It's an alternative economic development incentive and for much higher levels of investment. So some options are we can limit to 3 or we can allow a 5-year abatement, but increase the eligibility requirements or change the eligibility requirements to what we would like to see them reflected in a 5-year program.
I mean, I feel like we're going to stay. I mean, we still want just more information on why we would do. I mean, I could tell you my opinion, but it's based on just my opinion, not any.
When we come back to council next, we will have much more data.
Okay.
Going to the next slide.
Do you want to say something? Councilor Schimmel wants to.
Well, I agree with you, and I mean, it's substantially more for a 5-year versus a 3. I think if we were to continue that, public benefit be substantially greater.
And this is the last requirement that is something that is currently in the state statute, which is the school support fee. The state minimum is 15%, the maximum is 30%. It's only applied in years 4 and 5. The revenue is not received by the school. It goes to the state of Oregon, not the local school district, or it goes through the local school district to the state of Oregon and then is reallocated. Forest Grove, Hillsborough, and Beaverton are all the same at 15%. This is a number that is recommended by the school district. The staff does not at this time recommend any change, but in a future presentation, we'll make sure we reach out to the school district as well.
that was going to be my comment. I wasn't sure if it was discussed last time, but we say that Forest Grove School, the school district, made the recommendation for the current program, but I think that was a very long time ago. And so I don't know what their current recommendation would be. And so I need to hear from them.
And next slide. Our last is if there's any other potential requirements that are not explicitly laid out in state statute that you would like staff to explore. So a couple of options that we put just as examples would be things like must have land use approval before they're eligible to apply, or must make an investment within 2 years of the application approval.
Did those options come from best practices by other municipalities, or where did those 2 options come from?
The 2 options came from staff brainstorming on things that might make for easier. It can be easier to do a land use when something is already land use approved, because you already know how much that investment is going to be and you have a little bit more data information, and it prevents folks, and both of these items would prevent folks from kind of stacking incentives over a longer time period. So it would force folks to, so that way we don't have that situation where we found some folks in the last couple of weeks stacking enterprise zone pre-applications and authorizations going out 10, 15 years.
Got it. Okay.
I imagine this is where the legislature is going to send some signals on any other requirement. I mean, I hear what's going on in Hillsborough and you know, in terms of arresting the responsibility from staff to council on approving them, for example, but there may be other things from the legislature.
Yeah, I concur. I think that the legislature is going to bring it up. I mean, so they have the moratorium. They have to do something with enterprise, and that's also I think is a really good idea to start doing some initial research so we know what our position is, and then also not trying to rush, renew, and build it the way we want it built, and look towards our state legislator to give us some direction.
Thank you.
Very cool. Thank you, Kim.
Yep.
Thank you, Jesse. Thanks, Mariah.
I just want to real quick, because I mean, I think what gets lost in this conversation is because we're talking about jobs and, you know, developing industry here. And I think that that's one really important side of sort of the calculus. But I think one thing that, you know, really, and I know, you know, you said this, it keeps you up at night, and it does me too. And Jesse, thank you for sort of like alluding to this earlier when you suggested that, because, you know, when we reflect on the goals and of, you know, from the 2040 vision, it says a lot about a diverse economy. And to me, that means, you know, not just a place where people, you know, can work, also diversifying our tax base, because I think that that's an element that's lost in this conversation, because what we're doing is abating property taxes, which is primarily the biggest portion of our revenue stream. And so like these are, you know, when I look at that map, it's huge and it's scary because, you know, we're talking about abating property taxes. And so, you know, making sure that we're getting something out of that investment is really, really important. But also making sure that, you know, at the end of the day, the expectation is like, you know, these are businesses that are going to go onto our tax rolls to maybe relieve some of the pressure that we were talking about earlier from our residents, because they are having to, I mean, we're going to be going out to them for another operation levy here in a couple of years, because without our residents, we're not able to pay our bills. And so that's sort of a cliff thing that keeps me up at night. For sure. And we, you know, it's not just about creating jobs. Yes, that's really great. Also about diversifying our tax base so that we can take some pressure off. So,
Yes,
so
well
Bob,
said.
Sorry, I just
No,
wanted to get
you're
that off my chest. 'Cause
it's spot
I
on.
wasn't here last time.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing. Any other final remarks on this topic before? Great, thank you all for a great meeting, and meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Good evening. I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Forest Grove City Council on June 8th, 2026. Will our city recorder please call roll?
Councillor Gustafson,
Here.
Council President Valenzuela,
Here.
Councillor Schimmel,
Here.
Councillor Falconer,
Here.
Councillor Martinez,
Here.
Councillor Marshall,
Here.
Mayor Wenzel.
Here. We acknowledge the land on which Forest Grove is located rests on the traditional village sites of the Aflati, a tribe of the Kalapua who originally inhabited the Tualatin Plains, including Forest Grove. They are now part of the Confederate Tribes of Grand Ronde. Will the audience and the council please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Could I please have Mr. Larry Hatch join me up the podium? I'm going to say a few words and then I'm going to give you the microphone, which could be dangerous, but I think it'll be fine. Or you don't have to talk. Okay, come face this way. So we are here tonight. We have to start our city council meeting the best way possible, and that's by recognizing a very long time volunteer of the city of Forest Grove. Mr. Hatch has volunteered to do numerous things for the city of Forest Grove, and he is beloved by very many people in our community. Tonight, we are recognizing him for 38. That's 8 more years of like most retired people. 38 years of volunteering for our MAC Advisory Commission, which is the Metropolitan Area Communications Commission. So thank you so much. Thank you for representing Forest Grove. Thank you for volunteering all these years of service. And with that, I would like to present to you this award. Okay. Do you want to say anything? Go. Okay. He's like, I volunteered for 38 years. I don't want to say anything else. He's like, I've said it all. Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda are proclamations. We have 3 proclamations this evening. We're going to begin with Juneteenth. Whereas on June 19th, 1865, more than 2 years after the issuance of the Emancipation Proclamation, Union soldiers arrived in Galveston, Texas to spread the news that slavery in the United States had ended. And whereas June 19th was coined Juneteenth and became a time of joyous celebrations for freed slaves and their descendants, commemorated through family cookouts, faith services, music, storytelling, and the color red as a symbol of resilience. And whereas Juneteenth celebrates the end of slavery, recognizing the high price Black Americans have paid for civil rights and equal access, and is an occasion to honor and reflect on the significant contributions of Black Americans to our nation. And whereas Juneteenth evolved into a way for Black Americans to pay homage to ancestors and celebrate Black culture, liberation, and achievements, living on to become the longest running Black American holiday, with this year marking its 160th anniversary. And whereas the nationally recognized holiday is an opportunity to celebrate human freedom, reflect on the grievous and ongoing legacy of slavery, and rededicate ourselves from rooting out the systemic racism that continues to afflict our society as we strive to deliver full promise of freedom and equality for all Americans. Now, therefore, the City Council of the City of Forest Grove does hereby proclaim June 19th as Juneteenth in Forest Grove, Oregon, Washington County, and urges all citizens to become more aware of the significance of this celebration in Black history and in the heritage of our nation. It is our responsibility to ensure racial justice and equity in Forest Grove and the world.
Okay, let's see here. There we go. Considerando que el 19 de junio de 1865, más de 2 años después de la promulgación de la proclama de emancipación, soldados de la Unión llegaron a Galveston, Texas, para difundir la noticia del fin de la esclavitud en Estados Unidos. Y considerando el 19 de junio, conocido como Juneteenth, se convirtió en una fecha de alegre celebración para los esclavos liberados y sus descendientes, conmemoradas con comidas familiares, servicios religiosos, música, narración de historias y el color rojo como símbolo de resistencia. Y considerando que Juneteenth celebra el fin de la esclavitud, reconociendo el alto precio que los afroamericanos han pagado por los derechos civiles y la igualdad de acceso, y es una ocasión para honrar y reflexionar sobre las importantes contribuciones de los afroamericanos a nuestra nación. Y considerando que Juneteenth se convirtió en una forma para que los afroamericanos rindieran homenaje a sus antepasados y celebraran la cultura, la liberación y los logros de la comunidad negra, convirtiéndose en la festividad afroamericana más longeva, que este año celebra su aniversario de 160 años. y considerando que esta festividad reconocida a nivel nacional es una oportunidad para celebrar la libertad humana, reflexionar sobre el doloroso y persistente legado de la esclavitud y renovar nuestro compromiso de erradicar el racismo sistémico que sigue afligiendo a nuestra sociedad mientras nos esforzamos por cumplir la promesa plena de libertad e igualdad para todos los estadounidenses. Ahora, por tanto, el Ayuntamiento de la ciudad de Forest Grove proclama por la presente el 19 de junio de 2026 como Juneteenth. En Forest Grove, Oregon, en el condado de Washington, exhortamos a todos los ciudadanos a tomar mayor conciencia sobre el significado de esta celebración en la historia de la comunidad afroamericana y en el legado de nuestra nación. Es nuestra responsabilidad garantizar la justicia racial y la equidad en Forest Grove y en el mundo. En testimonio de lo cual ha suscrito la presencia y ha hecho que el sello de la ciudad de Forest Grove, Oregon, se emplace en este día 8 de junio 2026, nuestra alcaldesa Malinda Wenzel.
Thank you, Council President. Our second proclamation this evening is Gun Violence Awareness Month. Whereas gun violence touches every segment of our society and impacts people of all ages, it increases the probability of death and incidents of domestic violence, raises the likelihood of fatality by those who intend to injure others, and among those who attempt suicide. It places children and young people at increased risk of physical harm and injury, and disproportionately affects communities of color. And whereas the 12th National Gun Violence Day Awareness is June 5th, 2026, and honors the many lives that have been cut short by gun violence in our country, and supports efforts to reduce gun-related crimes in the United States. And whereas it is important to recognize community organizations which assist families that have been directly impacted by gun violence and provide a continuum of care for grieving parents or spouses who must continue to provide for surviving family members. And whereas support for the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens goes hand in hand with keeping guns out of the hands of dangerous people. And whereas the city supports continued statewide efforts to strengthen gun safety laws and and educate the community on safe gun storage. Now, therefore, the City Council of the City of Forest Grove does hereby proclaim June 2026 as Gun Violence Awareness Month in Forest Grove, Oregon, Washington County, and urge all citizen business organizations and agencies to work collaboratively to reduce gun violence in our community. And our last proclamation for the evening is Pride Month. Whereas the month of June was designated Pride Month to commemorate the Stonewall Riots, a series of demonstrations led by Black and brown transgender women occurring in June 1969 and generally recognized as the catalyst of the U.S. gay rights movement. And whereas Forest Grove's LGBTQ plus community is a diverse and essential part of our community that contributes to widespread academic, economic, artistic, political, and social spheres within and around the city. And whereas Pride Month is an expression of joy, love, hope, and unity, a celebration of the contributions of those who have fought to live authentically, and a time to join in recognizing both shared humanity and the value of our differences. And whereas significant challenges still face the LGBTQ plus community, including discriminatory legislation, violence, and systemic barriers that disproportionately impact Black, Indigenous, and other people of color, and transgender individuals, underscoring the need for continued work toward ending discrimination and prejudice. And whereas celebrating Pride Month provides support and advocacy for Forest Grove's LGBTQ plus community, and is an opportunity to take action and engage in dialogue to build community, foster acceptance, and advance equal rights. Now, therefore, the City Council of the City of Forest Grove does hereby proclaim the month of June 2026 as Pride Month in Forest Grove, Oregon, and calls upon the people to respect, honor, and celebrate our diverse community and build a culture of inclusivity and acceptance. Thank you. Okay, we are going to move on to item B on our agenda, which is public comment. Time provided for anyone wishing to speak to the City Council on an item not on the agenda or on the agenda but not scheduled for a public hearing. Comments are limited to 2 minutes unless additional time is granted by the presiding officer. The public comment period shall not exceed 30 minutes unless a majority of councilors present vote to extend the time. Zoom attendees may use the raise hand option to be called on. Okay. Let me look at my list. And will Mr. Dale Feek please come to the seat in front?
Mayor Wenzel, Council President Valenzuela, and City Councilors Dale Feek. May I have 3 minutes instead of 2?
You may.
Thank you very much. I sent you an email already, and I made a 5-minute public comment about that email to the Washington County Commissioners, and I read a lot of it to them. But first of all, I just want to thank you for the 3 proclamations. I listened to them, and I can't listen in Spanish, I don't know it, but I appreciate you including the people that do speak Spanish, so thank you for those proclamations. I'm in support of them. I sent you an email from Robert Reich titled Full Frontal Neo-Fascism and What We Must Do to Stop Trump's Regime. I'm not going to go through the detail, but Reich says, America's slouching to the 25th anniversary of our revolution against arbitrary power with a president who shamelessly exercises it. Never before have we witnessed this degree of self-dealing, bribe-taking, usurpation of congressional authority, and open defiance of federal court. Never have we, and I agree with Reich. And he also said, President Trump feels unstoppable because there's no one around him to tell no. Instead, he's surrounded by sycophants who tell him yes. He gets blind loyalty from his lapdogs, his vice president, his cabinet, and most Republicans in Congress who work for him rather than for the American people. So Robert Reich says there are some steps that we can address this full front neo-fascism. He suggested these ways. On July 4th, the 250th anniversary of the nation's independence, we wear black armbands to acknowledge the near death of our democracy and the rule of law under Trump. Next, in the weeks and months leading up to the midterm election on November 3rd, we commit to getting the largest voter turnout in American history to take back Congress and stop the neo-fascists in the White House. Not just a blue wave, but a blue tsunami. And on election day, 2028, we elect a president whose character and temperament are consistent with the founding ideals of the United States. Someone both humble and honorable, who's committed to strengthening democracy and the rule of law, who will revive the self-governing institutions that Trump has shut down, the word shat, but you get the word, on and refocus the nation on our vast unfinished agenda of inclusion rather than exclusion as these proclamations proclaim. Beyond these, we will do whatever we can to learn from the catastrophe and help America learn. We will teach our grandchildren and our children the truth of what has happened and how close we've come to losing democracy, and we will educate future generations on what we owe one another as citizens of this great land. To accomplish this all in summary, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, fortunes, and our sacred honor. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Feek. There are no other people signed up for public comment. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to give public comment? Seeing none, I will turn to Zoom. Are there any Zoom attendees? Please use the raise hand feature for public comment. Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to the consent agenda. Items under the consent agenda are considered routine and will all be adopted with a single motion without separate discussion. Councilors may remove items prior to the motion to adopt. Any removed items will be discussed and acted upon following the approval of the remaining items. What is the wish of the council?
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you. The consent agenda was moved by Councilor Martinez and seconded by Council President Valenzuela. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, the consent agenda is approved with a 7-0 vote. Moving on to additions or deletions. City Manager, are there any additions or deletions?
No additions or deletions. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Any proposed by council? Seeing none, we'll move now on to presentations. Oh, we have no presentations. Okay, we'll skip that and move on to item F, public hearing, ordinances, and resolution. So I would like to call our library director, Colleen Winters, up to talk about approving the cooperative operating agreement. I don't think there's a public hearing. Again. Oh, you don't have a microphone, Colleen.
Sorry. Thank you, Mariah. When I was here previously, we talked about the history of WCCLS and the changes that have been made over the last couple of years as we worked with the consulting company Marina. The work that has been done is the result of those efforts. So I won't review all that again. I thought tonight we would just talk about the fact that there are, in fact, 2 IGAs that need to be approved. One is the Cooperative Governance Agreement. And again, as I told you earlier, that's just about some cleanup of some language and expectations of roles, nothing too dramatic in the changes that were proposed there. The other agreement, the Cooperative Operating Agreement, is the one that does have some significant changes to it. First of all, it updates the term of the agreement until 2031. It establishes, base service levels, and I think if we talked about that before, that was a change that's new, and they're outlined here in the staff report. But indeed, that's a new requirement for member libraries of WCCLS. The service boundaries, we spent significant time discussing service boundaries, and Forest Groves didn't change all that much, but that is now a critical part of the IGAs. The last bullet here, I think we should spend a moment on. That's about the funding formula and the funding amounts for member libraries. So as noted in that first bullet, it increases Forest Grove's contribution by 24% in the first year from $1 million to $1.24 million. And as we talked about last time, it does not specify the funding amounts for the remaining 4 years, which we spent some time talking about. And as noted, the language got changed after the discussion was held here and in various other city councils communicated to the county the concerns about that. So the language is changed, and it's here for you to read that it's different than it was, but not, again, it doesn't have specifics about the contribution for the next 4 years. Important thing to note as far as the Forest Grove Library is that the funding from the city has declined from 54% to 34% as a result of this increase from the county. And the Board of Commissioners did in fact improve this draft agreement on May 26th. The city has until June 30th to approve this and communicate to the Board of Commissioners that it has been approved. Any member library that does not approve this IGA will have their library services, discontinued library services as of July. Do you have any questions about any of that?
Any questions for Colleen? Councilor Schimmel.
Mostly a comment. Thanks for enduring the process. And I think a yes on adoption is a commitment to working cooperatively with our county commissioners and honoring the levy.
Thank you, Councilor Schimmel. Any other questions for Colleen? Okay, what is the wish of the council?
Do you need one motion for both resolutions or two different
I think,
motions for the two?
We need two. So let's we'll start with resolution 2026, 2023.
So let's move to approve resolution 2026-23.
Second.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion on that resolution? Hearing none, will the city manager please read it by title only?
Resolution 2026-23, approving the cooperative operating agreement between the City of Forest Grove and Washington County on behalf of the Washington County Cooperative Library Services, or WCCLS, and authorizing the city manager to sign the agreement commencing July 1st, 2026 and ending June 30th, 2031.
Do you think we should do a roll call vote, Mariah, or consensus is fine? Does it matter?
I think it could go either way.
Okay. All those in favor of approving resolution 2026-23, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The motion, resolution 2026-23, is approved by the Forest Grove City Council in a 7-0 vote. Okay, moving on to resolution 2026-24. What is the wish of the council?
Move to approve resolution 2026-24.
Second.
Okay. It was moved by Councilor Falconer and seconded by Councilor Martinez. Any discussion from council? Will the city manager read it by title only, please?
Resolution 2026-24, approving the cooperative governance agreement between the City of Forest Grove and Washington County on behalf of the Washington County Cooperative Library Services, WCCLS, and authorizing the city manager to sign the agreement commencing July 1st, 2026 and ending June 30th, 2031.
Okay. All those in favor of approving resolution 2026-24, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none. The resolution is approved by the Forest Grove City Council in a 7-0 vote. Okay, we're going to move on to item F3. This is the IGA with Tigard. Oh, thank you, Colleen.
Thank you, Colleen.
Thank you, Colleen, so much.
Very much.
With resolution 2025-25, we're going to have our assistant city manager, Kim Ezel, come present.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The resolution before you tonight would authorize the city manager to enter the City of Forest Grove into a partnership with the City of Tigard for IT services. The City of Tigard is uniquely able to assist the City of Forest Grove as it has recently completed many of the IT projects that Forest Grove is planning to accomplish. Previously, the city had internal IT leadership but had difficulty hiring for the IT manager role. Since then, the city has contracted with a private firm to stabilize IT services. This IGA serves as the next step in long-term IT service stabilization. Total value of the IGA is $144,000 and will be funded by the city's Information Systems Fund. The IGA is estimated to save the city about $96,000 by partnering with a municipal entity in place of a private business. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for our Assistant City Manager? Oh, thank you. Councilor Gustafson.
I just wanted to say I think this is a great idea, and I'm glad that we have this option to move forward.
Thank you, Counselor. Agreed. Any other comments or questions? Okay, hearing none, what is the wish of the council?
Move that we approve 2025-25.
Second.
What, can I actually, yes, okay, sorry. Resolution 2025-20, shouldn't that be 2026-2025?
Yeah.
Can we like fix, it's on the agenda, it's resolution
Yeah.
2025-26. So just like a friendly amendment that should be 2026-25 has been moved by Councilor Martinez and seconded by Council President Valenzuela. Any discussion from the council? Yeah, I agree with, as Councilor Gustafson's praise of staff, like the IT situation's been going on for like 3 years, I want to say. So thanks for coming on board and having a creative solution to address that.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. And will the city manager please read it by title only?
Resolution 2026-25, approving an intergovernmental agreement, IGA, between the City of Tigard and the City of Forest Grove for job share information technology support, and authorizing the city manager to execute the agreement.
Okay, great. All those in favor of approving the resolution, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, Resolution 2026-25 is approved by the Forest Grove City Council in a 7-0 vote. And Kim, we're just going to ask you to stay there. We're going to move on to item F4, which is Resolution 2026-26 and deals with appropriations. So I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. The resolution before you now would adopt Budget Committee recommended budget transfers. The adopted budget for the biennium is based upon best estimates at the time the budget is adopted. During the biennium, unanticipated events occur and necessary projects are identified. As a result, it is standard procedure to review expected budgeted expenditures at the mid-biennium and make staff recommendations for adjustments. Staff presented the recommended transfers below or in front of you tonight to the Forest Grove Budget Committee on May 12th and 19th, 2026. The Budget Committee unanimously recommended the Forest Grove City Council approve the requested budget transfers. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions for Kim? Seeing none, what is the wish of the council?
I move that we approve 2026-26.
A second.
Thank you. The motion was made by Councilor Martinez and seconded by Councilor Falconer. Any discussion? No, I mean, I just would like to thank staff and previous staff for the biennial budget. Or wait, this was a little bit different. No, yeah, but just for like the work on the budget, it's, has been a long process as well. Any other questions, discussion? Okay, and I'll ask for roll call vote, please.
City manager.
Oh, wait, read it by title only, please, Jesse. Thank you, Mariah.
Resolution 2026-26, transferring appropriations within various funds for public works and light and power for fiscal years 2025 through 26 and fiscal year 2026 through 27.
Thank you. Mariah, can we have a roll call vote? Thanks.
Council President Valenzuela.
Yes.
Councilor Schimmel.
Yes.
Councilor Falconer.
Yes.
Councilor Martinez.
Yes.
Councilor Marshall.
Yes.
Councilor Gustafson.
Yes.
Mayor Wenzel.
Yes, Resolution 2026-26 was approved by the Forest Grove City Council in a 7-0 vote. We are now moving on to Resolution 2026-27, and I'm going to turn it over to Jesse.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. So City Ordinance -87-2 governs the city's solid waste franchise agreement with Waste Management. And as part of that agreement, if Metro raises their fees, the franchisee or Waste Management is allowed to pass those fees through. So Metro is increasing the solid waste fee on July 1st, 2026 from $162.14 per ton to $176.70 per ton. Waste Management is proposing to pass those rates and fees through on their fee schedule. They are not proposing to raise their own fees or increase any other fees besides those that are impacted by the tonnage fee or the tipping fee. The ordinance actually requires the city council to consider and approve this. The average rate of increase is 3.5%. Some fees are as low as approximately 2, others are as high as approximately 4.5. It just depends on the type of fee. None of the recycling fees are increasing. Some of the monthly fees are not increasing, but all of the fees associated with the tipping rate are proposed for an increase with an average of about 3.5%. And again, they are limited to Metro's pass-through fees. They are not additional fees. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions for Jesse? Seeing none, what is the wish of the city council? Who's up next?
I move that we approve Resolution 2026-27.
Second.
Thank you. It was moved by Counselor Martinez and seconded by Counselor Schimmel. Any discussion? Hearing none. Jesse, will you please read it by title only?
Resolution number 2026-27, resolution fixing solid waste rates to be charged by franchisee in the city of Forest Grove, effective July 1st, 2026, and repealing resolution number 2025-35.
Thank you. All those in favor of approving resolution 2026-27, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none. Resolution 2026-27 is approved by the City Council in a vote of 7-0. We're now moving on to item G, Council Communications, and I will start with our Council President, Valenzuela.
All right, Mayor, thank you. I have nothing to report. We're meeting this week with the Library Commission and the Policy Advisory Board as well. So I'll have news next week or in 2 weeks.
Thank you. Councilor Faulkner.
I unfortunately had to miss my chamber meeting, so I have nothing to report.
Thank you. Councilor Gustafson.
I have nothing to report.
Thank you. Councilor Marshall.
Nothing to report.
Thank you. Councilor Martinez.
I basically have nothing to report as well.
Okay. And Councilor Schimmel.
Say something.
We've given you all our time.
No, don't tell him.
No, don't.
Right.
Now I'm going to embarrass myself, I'm sure. Well, CCE, they're very eager to help support the police facility bond. So they've spent a good part of their meeting talking about all the various activities that they'll support. EDC makes later this week, but they were introduced to the enterprise zone discussion we had last time, and the discussion tonight will circle back there where they'll be able to consider some inputs on the policy questions that may circle back to us again. And then, that's it. Oh, I think Council President Venezuela had meant to say that we got to see Juan Carlos Gonzalez graduate from Centro into his position as president of Metro. So it was a fun celebration to, where they were sort of sending him off into that leadership position. So it was nice.
Thank you. Did I make sure to get everybody? Yeah, okay, Justin. Okay, Jesse, City Manager report.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Just a few items. Senators Merkley and Wyden did put forward the city's TV highway project for $2.96 million to the Senate Appropriations Committee. So that was a big step. If you recall, Congresswoman Bonamici applied for the same amount. However, the House Appropriations met. That request is still alive, but it did get cut down to approximately $1 million. So the Senate and the House will meet in reconciliation. So at this point, we have 2.96 in the Senate, 1 in the House, and we'll see where we come out on reconciliation. But that is good news. It's coming from essentially both sides of both the Senate and the House. Washington County staff is holding an open house on June 11th. That's this Thursday from 5 to 7 right here in the Forest Grove Community Auditorium. That open house is about Highway 47, Fern Hill, and Maple intersection. The good news, I think largely thanks to the council and also thanks to Light and Power and Bonneville Power Administration, some of those power lines have been relocated. That's enabled the project to kind of get back on track, and it looks like they may be able to start construction as early as 2027. So the open house is about the design. Any comments, questions that the public might have, we would encourage you to show up. As thank you to the council for the approval of the letter to apply for the $20 million Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities grant. That is a pretty exhaustive grant application process, so the approval of the matching funds is much appreciated. We will submit that correspondence to the Federal Emergency Management Agency tomorrow. The Public Works building is ahead of schedule. Completion is anticipated by the end of July. If you recall, the initial schedule was mid-August. So staff is looking at scheduling an open house and a ribbon cutting sometime in August. When we get a date, we will be sure to make sure and send it out to the council. The annual pavement overlay and curb ramp project was advertised on June 3rd. Bids are due by the end of this June. That's just our annual program to do our curb ramps, to make them compliant with the ADA, but also to repave some streets that have a low pavement condition indice. From the fire department, in the month of May, the fire department equipped and staffed 2 emergency response units 94% of the time, or 29 out of 31 days. That was due in large part to the additional positions that were approved under the levy by the council. And that is a significant increase from the previous May without those positions, where it was 11 of 31 days and approximately 35% of the time. So an increase from 35 to 94% of the time. The pool reopened May 26. It was ahead of schedule, so kudos to Ann and her team and the contractor that worked on it. All the programming has resumed. If you recall, that project replaced the pool deck, it upgraded the locker rooms, and it fixed a lot of the old galvanized plumbing by replacing it with modern plumbing. And then last but not least, a kudos to the Daybreak Rotary Club. They partnered with our Parks Department and just did a great job sprucing up the north entrance to Forest Grove, where the sign is, on Saturday, May 23rd. If you get a chance to take a look at it, please do. It looks really good. So that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Jesse. Really quick before we move on, I know you thanked council about the BRIC grant and approving the matching funds, but really the council would like to thank Greg for his work on that. He worked on it before, put in a lot of work. That grant program got canceled by President Trump. It came back. He worked on it again. So our gratitude goes to staff.
Okay.
And I just want to make sure you pass that on.
I'll be sure to pass it on. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. Just a few updates from me. So Region 1 Act, that's like my transportation group. I meet with ODOT. There's some big summer projects going on that are going to close some major freeways in Portland. So there's the I-5 corridor project. And while most of these are summer, but I'm telling you this because some roads are going to be closed. They're going to be weekend closures, maybe overnight. Then there's I-205 and Abernathy Bridge, 2 weekend closures on I-205, frequent night and ramp closures. There's Boone Bridge investigating work, which is daytime under the bridge, and then in the nighttime single lane closures, as well as I-5 Boone Bridge joint replacement, and that will improve safety and reduce long-term costs, and that will be done with nighttime closures for 15 weeks. And then late summer, full night closures of all 4 lanes. And then I-84 eastbound replacement, 1 lane closed in each direction. So those are the big closures going on with ODOT in the Portland area. Just some announcements from a citywide. This one's like, I just thought was pretty cool. The Friends of the Library give a scholarship to Forest Grove High School students at the end of each year. And this year's recipient of the Friends of the Library scholarship was one of our Mayor's Youth Advisory Council members, Annie Goff. So I was like, oh, But I don't even know if they knew that or what, but Colleen, tell them. I think they're presenting her the check on Wednesday, but that's also the same night as the Habitat for Humanity fundraiser. So I don't know if I'll be able to attend, but tell them thank you from us. And I'm glad you brought up the meeting on the 11th. I won't be able to attend that either with the county about Maple, Fern Hill, and Highway 47. So I don't know if anyone needs to be there, but it's the 8th grade promotion dance. That's a big deal. I mean, this is a big deal too, but I cannot miss it.
It's principally an open house, so it's mostly the county staff is going to be there sharing information, Mayor. So
Okay, cool. And if we can get them to move up the date to 2026, that would be amazing because it's been scheduled for 2027. Just the FYI.
well, initially it was scheduled for 2026, and then it got bumped back to 2028, and now they're talking about trying to complete it in 2027.
Okay, let's just give all the good juju in the
To
world that it
2026,
gets
yeah.
completed. The sooner the better. It's a high needed area. And as I said earlier, if you're so inclined, that West Valdi Habitat for Humanity is having their fundraiser on Wednesday at Pacific University. And then just a friendly reminder, I also will not be able to attend this, and I'm very sad because we have our boarding commission volunteer thank you reception on June 18th at the Grand Lodge. So if you could all attend and tell everyone thank you for me, that'd be great. But I will not be attending. And I think that's all I have. Okay, so I'm going to adjourn this meeting, but we're going to stay for a work session on enterprise zones. So if you guys want to stay around and listen to us talk about enterprise zones. Oh, wait, I had one more announcement. The school board, Kate Grandusky is leaving her role as school board member, and so they are appointing somebody. It's an appointment process if you're interested. Okay, and with that,